In fact, Laudato Si is, for me, really, apart from it's coming from the biblical context, it's very African in nature. You know, African, our ancestors from the very beginning realized that we depend on the earth. The earth is our home. God gave us the earth to nourish and feed us. And so we cannot treat it anyhow. In fact, there is, to express this, our ancestors have this saying: we who are alive now, we do not borrow, we do not inherit the land from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. Let me repeat that. We who are alive now, we do not inherit the land from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. And as you know, in African context, when you borrow something, you keep it well. The last thing you can do is sell it off. The last thing you can do is to dispose of it. So when you are given something in trust, you hold it in trust. In fact, in many traditional African communities, you do not own the land. You use the land and pass it on. So this new practice of land title, having land assigned to people, is to facilitate land grab. Because when land was held as a community trust, you cannot sell what, one person cannot sell what belongs to all of us. So this new policy of land tenure, in fact, this is one of the areas that you have corporate intrusions into African government. So this is one of the areas that we have corporate intrusions into African government, that they make policy of land reform, they make policy of land title, and once it is reformed, when there is the title, the next thing is that they turn around and say to the individual, now that you own it, you can now sell it. So they sell the land, and bit by bit the land is going. Bit by bit, land that used to belong to the community is going. But in African spirituality, in African understanding, nobody owns the land. In fact, it's the other way around. The land owns us. Because as scripture says, we were taken from it, and to it we return. So Laudato Si has emphasized the African spirituality of land. And Pope Francis kept saying the earth is a common home. So it's a home that holds, protects us. So when we abuse the home, when we try to dispose of it as we like, when we turn it into a desert, as Cardinal Thompson emphasized, when we bury chemicals and treat it anyhow, we are abusing the very earth on which we are grounded, the very earth that God gave to us to nourish, to sustain us, and to pass on to future generations. So that's what, as we celebrate the anniversary, third anniversary of Laudato Si, to remind us, even Africans, to remind us of our ancestors' spirituality of land as sacred, of land as something where the ancestors, remains are buried, and so as land that produces the food that we eat. Without land, we are nothing. Look at people fight over a small piece of land and kill each other over. The Palestinian-Israeli issue, a strip of land that thousands have died over. So why the value of land is to be recognized. And so if African government, if African leaders don't realize that value, if they don't realize that we have to hold in sacred trust what God has given to us, if they don't realize, as Pope Francis puts it, that the earth is a home that we must protect, then we are setting ourselves up for failure. We are setting up conflicts for future generations. In fact, we are mortgaging the future of our generation, of our young generation, for a little gains, or to use the biblical expression, for a bowl of soup.